Hello, welcome back to another episode of Somewhere Between a film and TV podcast. We're your hosts. I am Daniel Parra.
And I'm Erwin.
And number one, thank you so much for listening. Number two, what are they going to do?
They're going to like, comment, and subscribe.
Please do. Erwin, what are we reviewing?
We Live in Time.
Yeah,
I think my Norwales
Narwhal. We do live in time, don't we, Erwin?
Wait, is that whale?
Narwhal?
Narwhal?
Yeah.
Oh. That looks like a wall to me.
Everything we review will have full spoilers. This movie's very sad, just like how Erwin's sad about the thing he just told her.
Yeah.
And I know it's weird to do full spoilers for a movie like this, but let's go ahead and do it anyway. Erwin, I'm going to ask you something before we get into all of that.
Yes.
What did you think of this movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or are you somewhere between?
I loved it.
I loved it. It's been every single review that's come out this week, we are pretty much big fans of everything.
Yeah, we're enjoying all of it.
Yeah. Really. Movies, are they back?
Movies are back.
They're back, but
movies are back.
But we're going to say that they're back in the future because this one's non-linear, you know. And it's all over the place in terms of how
Did you expect to do that?
No.
Oh, that was good. That was good, man.
So I'm going to ask you, we are huge fans of Andrew-Garfield and Florence-Pugh.
Yes.
I love both of them quite a bit. I think that I'm glad that Andrew-Garfield.
What's your favorite movie with Andrew-Garfield?
My favorite, The Social Network, easily.
Social Network.
100%.
Fuck.
Yeah.
But he has to be the main.
The main actor.
Yeah.
So I can't count like Silence either.
Ah! Hacksaw Ridge is great.
Hacksaw Ridge is incredible. He's incredible in that.
I don't know.
You made up this rule for yourself. Just give like.
It's just you name some great movies, and I'm like, oh no.
He is. I don't know how to explain this. He's somehow underrated, but also not because he took a break for a while, and he's back again. He's immediately charismatic. I'm sure we've all seen the Emilia de Moldenberg chicken shop date thing that he's in. Mm-hmm. He's immensely charismatic in everything that he does, which is why this movie's carried so well by both of them. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to ask you, what did you like or love so much about this?
For sure, they're dynamic between one another, and I didn't know this movie was going to go back and forth in terms of their editing. Yeah, in terms of showing like their relationship, like from the ending or like I think it started from the middle. I would say
it started around the moment whenever she's pregnant. I think. Yeah.
Right. So it was like in the middle, and then like the beginning, the ending, and then just kept jumping back and forth over and over, and it was one of those times where I did not feel confused. You
don't feel confused because they do the Little Women trick where the hair kind of tells you.
Hey, I just saw that movie again.
That movie's incredible.
Yes.
And I think it's always really smart to do that. There's you can see that she's pregnant. There's the bangs, and then there's the hair.
Classic bang.
Yeah. And with the editing, you didn't find distracting all that much there. I loved this movie quite a bit. But I thought, if I'm going to I don't want to get in my like negatives right away.
Dang, already.
It's my one thing. I thought they didn't quite nail it transitioning into the ending. Just because they kind of abandoned the concept after.
Yeah, I think it's because at the end, like, they just focused on what was going to happen after.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I'm not sure why they decided to tell the story in this way, but I don't mind it either. It adds a different sort of layer to the movie overall. But if we're going to specifically get into everything about it, positives, we first got to go over what this movie's about. What is this movie about?
This movie is about a couple going through time.
Okay, yeah. Past, present, and future. Yeah.
And basically having those tough conversations that most couples, I guess, wouldn't have. Yeah. But trying to have it, right away, and it's like always constantly having it too. But also, instead of just focusing on like, what you want later down the road, it's like just focus on the now.
Yeah. I loved that quite a bit. Maybe it's because if we're going to be talking about this movie, sort of designed to hit you on a personal level. I do have a family member that passed away a few years ago from cancer. So when I found out that's what this was about, I was like, oh, of course. And then, yes, I cried. And I assume you did as well.
Well, as a alpha male.
It was right next to you. You cried.
Okay, man.
I saw you. You were like.
I was like.
What scene was it?
It was it was when the Oscar scene we talked about.
Oh yeah, can I? Sorry, you reminded me of one other small negative I have, and it has to do with Florence-Pugh's character.
What is it?
She makes this choice that I'm kind of surprised the movie chose to not acknowledge, where the description of this movie, they say there's a really beautiful conversation about passively living life for 12 months instead of actively enjoying and living life for 6. Yes. And so she chooses to go to this like chef competition the same day that they're supposed to get married.
Yes.
And the way the movie chose to handle that conversation's aftermath kind of confused me, because
we just don't know.
Andrew-Garfield walked out and he threw all the wedding invitations away, and he's obviously distraught and going through it. But then the movie doesn't really choose to ever acknowledge that choice again or how it affected him.
I like to think that a lot of it just comes down to, at least for me, that just what you as the audience would like think from that situation.
Yeah.
Because it already seemed like I would assume that he agreed on the choice that what she made for her, leaving a legacy and something for her daughter to remember her by.
Right.
But also, of course, he's upset about the fact that they're not getting married that day. Who knows if they even got married?
You don't know after a certain point.
You don't really know, because at the end, because at the end of the movie, we're assuming that she passes away.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we don't know. Also, so it's just us thinking about it, and I know I also cried at the end because the idea of her being passed away.
Yeah.
And the kid just taking care of it.
I do want to say, I think I realized where the narrative structure came into play in terms of why it was important, and it was to make you feel the idea of loss at the end, because the final scene with Florence-Pugh's character is whenever they run out of the competition and they go ice skating together their one last time, and she waves goodbye, and then the scene cuts to Andrew-Garfield and the daughter, and you don't know if Florence-Pugh is still there or not, and then you realize she isn't, and then the movie ends.
Yes.
And that's it. It fills you with this sort of sinking feeling, because once it was over, I was sort of like...
what happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think you told me you felt the same way, right?
Yes.
About that. So I do get it from that perspective as well, but let's go ahead and talk about... I do think that we don't really remember to address this too much in our reviews, but let's go ahead and talk about the dialogue here for a second. I think that it's really well done, and there's a lot of... there are the Golden Globes Oscar nominee monologue scenes, but there's a lot of really beautiful ones in it that I told you, it's why I was like, is this based off of something? But...
yeah. I mean... yeah, the dialogue itself is amazing, because especially when it comes to the relationship that they have with one another, and they like to showcase the scenes of their relationship and how it grows upon too, that I think it's very important, especially at the end of the movie, where Andrew-Garfield his character is teaching his daughter about the egg.
Yeah.
Right? The flat surface egg. And just those small little details of how they know about one another. Yeah. And then showcasing the past, future, present, and everything. And it just shows their relationship, how it grows along the way.
And I know Florence-Pugh's character had this idea of legacy, that what's important is being remembered. And I do relate to that in the sense of I think it's terrifying as a person to pass away and then nobody remembers you. That is such a scary thought to me. But I think that Andrew-Garfield's character argues at a point that he's like, well, your daughter will remember you. And it's all that small stuff that translates to a real life thing, that small little details, like the thing with the egg, like you said, and how she chose to crack those even. It's so simple, but you know why that's important? Because that carries on to future, really forever. And be like, where did I learn this from? Or it's like anything like that. And I'm sure that somebody in real life can relate to that with something in their own family as well, that you might be doing something out of habit and you never realize that you picked it up from any person that existed in the past. And I do think that this movie touches on, I don't know if, I'm not going to speak for Andrew Garfield. I don't know him like as a person.
I know him.
And does he really hate Mondays?
No, he likes to work on Mondays.
Man. You like lasagna?
Yeah, who doesn't like lasagna?
I do love lasagna. I love your lasagna. Yeah. And the one time you made it.
That's true.
With that, Andrew Garfield has been so vocal about the loss of his mother, and I don't know if he chose his mother, right?
Yes.
I don't know if he chose to take on a role like this because of that. Mm-hmm. But either way, he's such an incredible actor. Everybody in this is incredible. And I do wonder if parts of, acting comes from real emotion, sense of place, and being able to put himself into that. And there's so many different conversations about living life. And I don't know if you have a favorite scene in this movie in particular.
Oof. I would probably say the scene where he comes back after they had an argument where he said to her, I want to have kids. And she's well, why are you telling me now?
When they say that,
yeah.
How far into their relationship are they?
I don't know. But probably not that far.
Yeah.
But for him to say that, it made sense to me why he was trying to say that too.
Yeah.
Because if she said like she doesn't want to have kids, and he does, I can understand why that would be brought up.
Yeah.
And guys, we're not like relationship like therapists or anything.
And we're not experts. Yeah, we're not going to claim that we're experts either.
But him saying to say that, and her saying like, screw you and everything, and he's like, oh, I'm about to like fall in love with you. And I don't want to get hurt.
I got teary-eyed when he said that.
I was like, dang, that was a really good scene.
Yeah.
But I like the follow-up of that scene later on where he, like, comes back to her again into saying, like, I don't want to worry about if we have kids or not. I just know. Yeah.
I love that because it was talking about how the idea of losing someone when you were prioritizing the wrong thing.
Yes.
And I love that about it. Maybe it's because we are the right age right now to see stuff like this and really relate to some of the conversations on a like molecular level a little bit. And there's one scene I can't relate to because I don't have a kid, but I thought it was beautiful. I thought there's such a humor and joy in the world to things that can also be sad but can also be funny at the same time. And beautiful. And it's the scene in the middle of the movie that I think is the best scene in the movie, outside of the one that you just said, where he makes the whole grand statement. I thought that this movie would be a little bit more grounded in terms of how it is. It's not really. I mean, there's some stuff like, could it all happen? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I'm pretty sure.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Except for the moment where she's like, I guess I hit you with my car. And then...
Oh, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, you're like, I don't...
And I'm like, you're Florence-Pugh, hit me again.
You're like, run me over. But...
That's a kink.
Is it?
Anything can be a kink.
That's true. I was actually reading through a list of those today. But
why are you using these things?
Do you want to know all of them? There's like 400.
What? Guys, I kink shame. That's one thing I do. That's terrible. Ooh. Why is there 400?
I don't know. I'm
sure there's more than 400. What were a few that stood out to you?
I do not want to go
just say that. Just say what. Like, you don't need to explain what it is. Just say like the title of it.
One that was surprising to me was pampering.
All right.
It was simple.
The fact that I was like, I don't need details.
Whatever. Yeah, let's not go further into that. Why do you ask these things?
You're the one that looked up a whole list.
Yeah, but you brought it up.
Yeah, I just didn't think that. I don't know. I thought it was gonna be like those names or whatever, where it's like you don't really know what it is.
Oh no! I mean, you'll know, but if it says poop fetish there, then it's obviously.
Oh, gross, dude! Stop. Just go. Oh. Anyway,
my favorite scene in this movie takes place in a gas station.
Pamper and Poos.
It takes place in a gas station.
Yes.
Where she gives birth in... I thought that was beautiful.
That was also a great scene.
I love that. I love how funny it was. I love this idea that, yes, things like that can happen. Like, really, the idea of life is sort of happening really kind of anywhere, and you don't anticipate it.
Yeah.
Is the point of this movie. The point of this movie is the beauty of life and living in the now. And I think that's also part of the point of its structure, is to not live in the past or in the future, but in that present.
Yes.
Which is why everything's all over the place, because it's kind of an amalgamation of their relationship initially at all. So, is there anything else here that stood out to you?
I'm trying to think. Not really. No? I mean, just because it's very straightforward. Yeah. And a lot of what it was trying to say, and like what it portrayed too.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really anything else that that stood out to me besides like scenes where the actors were like very convincing.
Oh,
their
yeah.
Characters.
And they're phenomenal in this. I mean, we talked about A24's marketing system though.
And it's never the best.
It's not really the best. I don't know if it's because
I hate trailers. Except for Pacific Rim Uprising.
And I never saw the trailer for this.
Really?
No, never.
Oh, for Pacific Rim?
No, not for that. Oh. For We Live in Time.
I don't think I've seen the trailer either.
I don't even know. I think we lucked out that it was showing near us at all, because the
fact that I just knew about it more and more because of that poster of the horse.
One with the horse. Yeah. And that's why Andrew-Garfield even said, he was like, I feel like if that wouldn't have been on the poster, nobody would have even known that this movie exists. Let's go ahead and talk about your negatives. Do you have any?
No. I don't think I really have any negatives either. No, dude.
Did you give us a perfect score?
I didn't give it a perfect score.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You just don't want to give it a perfect score?
I mean, I don't not want to give it a perfect score. Wow. I just didn't think it was a perfect movie.
Did he hate it?
did he hate it, or did he hate it?
Or... So let's go ahead and wrap up.
No, what are your negatives?
I told you earlier. I didn't love the idea that this movie had a segment where I'm just so confused by the wedding thing. Not that it happened or didn't happen. I was just like, it's sort of described as a noble idea for Florence-Pugh to live out that part of her life. I get it. I understand. But it's such an odd choice for me when...
I don't know. I think to me, when that moment was happening, like at that, it was just like, what was more important for her or for him?
But she kept it a secret for so long.
Yeah.
That's, I think, is part of what bothered me. Maybe it's because I was like, now if that happened to me,
I wouldn't like that.
Yeah,
that is also true. But I guess it goes to show like how complicated relationships
are very complicated, guys. Don't go ahead and ask us for any advice.
No.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Love who you're with, and always and forever.
Love thy neighbor. No, like
love thy neighbor.
No, absolutely not. with consent, but I don't know.
But outside of that, the other thing was just that I think I get why it did it, but the narrative structure towards the end felt a little like loose in terms of its build and what it was doing. I don't know if this movie... Oh, okay, one more thing.
Dang!
I did give this a high score.
Oh.
I feel like I didn't really fully know these people outside of this situation that they were in. Like, I loved everything I saw. I loved their performances. But Andrew-Garfield's character, I know that he wants kids. I know that he loves Florence-Pugh. I know that he works at a cereal company.
Yes.
And his dad was cool.
Yeah.
And I felt like I didn't know a whole lot about him like as a person. I felt like I knew Florence-Pugh more and what she acted like, but
I think just because she had more of an impactful life.
Yeah.
Because that's what she's always been like thriving for, so.
And that didn't bother you or anything, did it?
No, just because I think with Andrew-Garfield's character, he seemed to me like a very simple man.
Yeah.
And at the end it seemed like he more wanted to have a family, or he wanted to be a dad more than he wanted to, be a husband.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
And so that's where I feel like the ending that he got, like Florence-Pugh's character got the ending that she wanted.
Yeah.
And then Andrew-Garfield character got the ending that he wanted.
And that's sort of what the movie's about, right? It's sort of like, it's about living life in the time that you have and all that's given to you, which I think is beautiful. I think this movie's filled with beautiful messages, and it's really about live in the present, live in now. And I think that all of my sort of couple asides, negatives, are kind of taken over by just how effective I think everything else was. But I love this movie a lot, and it will hit you in the feelings. If it doesn't, just like that. let's go ahead and wrap up here, Erwin.
All right.
Then I'm going to ask you, what did you think of this overall, and what's your score?
I give this movie 4.5 out of 5.
4.5 out of 4.5.
So you fucking loved it.
Yeah, you adored this movie.
Yeah, I do. There was plenty of doors.
I guess there were, yeah. I also gave this 4.5 out of 5.
Dang, dude, that's high.
I know. What? Anyway, Erwin, what's up next?
I don't know.
Oh boy, Venom: The Last Dance will be our next.
Will
review.
he be dancing?
I'm sure.
Dude, I didn't know Andy Serkis voiced Noel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know that.
He directed the second one,
yep.
didn't he? Yeah. Are you looking forward to it?
I don't know. We'll see.
Dude, we are, as much as we love comic book movies, we're so like.
Dude, I just don't get it.
We'll get into the Venom movies when we can. Although, shout out to Venom. He is the reason why this podcast exists in the first place. It was our first episode. So.
That's all right. I'll give it that.
Yeah. So, I guess they have to exist, right? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. We will see you next time.